Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Launched in 2020 and made in 25 pieces, this is the DLC Black in steel and titanium Urwerk UR-220 All Black, a flagship piece for Urwerk. This was the successor to the celebrated UR-210. The watch, which is primarily blackened DLC steel and titanium on its caseback, measures 53 millimeters from side to side. It is 43.9 millimeters from edge to edge, and we're measuring it both across the wrist and then long down the wrist. And it measures 14.7 millimeters in thickness. So let's make that practical. Put it on the wrist and get a sense of how it sits. You could see it is 53 millimeters across the wrist, but the pivot centers of the strap are actually inboard of the edge of the case. So even though this is a huge watch, it does fit my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and I think it would fit just fine on a wrist down to 15 centimeters circumference. So this is 16, consider 15 to be fine. Any smaller, you probably want to look for a smaller Urwerk. Now it's surprisingly thin for what it is, but it is a manual wind, so though it's based on the Zenith Elite caliber, the rotor is gone, the winding system is gone, the watch is fairly thin for what it is. Taking a quick look at the strap, you can see it is a combination of rubber, and then there's a velvety suede material on the bottom. And then on the top, the material wraps around a combination of rubber, technical fiber textile, and then a suede material that feels exactly like felt. I don't believe it to be animal-based in any way. You can see the Urwerk logo and the fact that this is delightfully a Velcro textile system, so you're never going to be in between sizes. Using the buckle that is included, you will always be able to size micrometrically with Velcro, a miraculous material that oddly isn't used more commonly in the watch industry. Urwerk has a wonderful aesthetic, and as you can see, layers are part of that aesthetic. A layered case, a layered dial, and of course the different layers that are present in the concept. Everything from a reference to the Renaissance era wandering hour complication to a nod to the early 1990s Audemars Piguet star wheel that resurrected that time display, to a space age and machine age look, as we have a dramatic combination of wandering hours with retrograde and flyback, and I'll demonstrate how this works. This is a system that includes an hour that scrolls along a 60-minute display. So you can see how that is 10. So as 1 hour exits stage left, the next enters stage right, but the retrograding index system jumps from end to start, end to start, end to start as the carousel rotates. You'll also note that the carousel rotates the hour to be displayed into position prior to joining the scale, so there's a lot of action on the dial side. Now we have a bifurcated power reserve. It is a 48-hour power reserve, manually wound. We have day 1 and day 2. And these two power reserves tag team each other. When one ends, the other one takes over. Part of the idea was to create a symmetrical dial. Part of the idea, due to the dozens and dozens of parts required, was simply to add an extra element of nuance and complication. Now we'll do a quick lume shot just so there can be no doubt at all. This watch is elaborately lumed. Not just the time scale, not just the carousel, but also the power reserve indicators themselves. And you can see that it is quite animated even in the dark. It is an amusing watch to play with. You will instantly convert your skeptical friends, your watch skeptical friends, into watch enthusiasts with this thing on your wrist. What a Paul Newman Daytona couldn't do with an hour of explanation, this thing does without a word. Taking a quick look at the case back, you will find a few unconventional elements. Individual numbering, yes, a window into the movement. Again, it's Zenith based. We'll talk about that in a moment. A little confusing notion that this is a titanium watch. It's a steel watch. The case back is blackened titanium. Of course, the watch includes a initiator. So what happens is when you initially take delivery of this watch, you open a lever and you pull a pin, which lowers this initiator into place and starts the operation of the watch. Now, the timepiece here was sold in 2021, so it is extremely fresh. You have a oil change display, which is effectively one and the same as a service requirement indicator. It only operates when the watch is wound and running, and I cannot overemphasize this, it counts up, not down. So at 39 months, which is 3 years and change, that is when the watch will need to go back to Urwerk for service. So we are very early in that process. Now, internally, we have a movement that is essentially a manual wind conversion of a Zenith Elite automatic. So it has a 48-hour power reserve. It beats away at 4 hertz or 8 beats per second. With the addition of the Urwerk manufacturer complication display, it is a 59 joule movement, and though it does not have a seconds display, it does retain the underlying hacking seconds function of the Zenith movement. And as you can see, there's a lot going on, all of it water resistant down to 30 meters. You can see the incredible depth of the complication. You can see everything from strakes to engine turning to satination to black polish to mirrored beveling. Although the watch is avant-garde, Urwerk of Geneva pays deference and reference to the history of watchmaking by finally finishing all the visible components of the watch. Designed by founding partner Martin Fry, engineered and built under the guidance of founding partner and watchmaker Felix Baumgartner, Urwerk is retro modernism, elements of both in one watch. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.